Usually, okay. So, like we know now Mendelian genetics, what it does, and also in terms of there were certain exceptions because then the later studies happened in terms of different animals and plants where the Mendelian laws they were not followed, and that's what was divided into these post Mendelian genetics, or what is also called as neo Mendelian genetics. And there were two types, intragenic and intergenic, that we will see further. uh, and there were several behaviors, or say several like characteristics that were observed in terms of the allelic expression or the gene expression, and that we had seen in terms of incomplete dominance, codominance, what is also called as multiple alleles or interaction of the genes, again divided into several, and the last one was pleiotropism. So we'll go over one by one. So in case of incomplete dominance, now the name itself says, we know out of the when the heterozygous individual is present, that particular allelic expression, it will only have of the dominant allele, because heterozygous individual has one dominant and one recessive. That is the general assumption everywhere. That's like from the Mendel studies. But later on, it was found that there can be incomplete dominance, which is not literally how a complete dominance look like. So the genes of an allelomorphic or allele pair are not related either as dominant or recessive, but express themselves when present together in a hybrid. Now, the best example is given in these examples, which we'll see. But as a result, the hybrids express the character intermediate to that of two parental alleles. So let's say one is tall, another one is short. I mean that is not again a example of incomplete dominance, but just to give you analogy to this. So if one individual or one parent is tall and other one is short, the children that they are going to have, because of the incomplete dominance, they can neither be tall nor be short, but they will be intermediate, that is of the average height. Yeah, so that is what incomplete dominance is. The best example is the flower, that is Mirabilis jalapa. This is again like kind of like many petaled flower. I don't know how to express. You can Google the name. You will understand how the flower look like. Or even this snapdragon plant, which shows this example of incomplete dominance. Now, when a cross is made between a true breeding red flower plant, so obviously there is a pure line of red flower producing plant, and there is a pure line of white colored flower plant. It's not white, it's white. Where is it? Yeah. So that is white colored flower plants. And you can see this is dominant, capital R, that is red color, white colored is small r, smaller. Now, when the offsprings are generated, they are heterozygous. And all of them, ideally, we would have assumed in Mendelian genetics, because R is red color, capital R, this flower should be red color, but not, that does not happen. And the flowers are pink colored, which is half expression of this and half expression of the recessive trait. So that is the incomplete dominance. In short, it is not complete dominance of one particular allele, but it is the incomplete dominance of that allele. Now, when the F1 flower, like again with the Mendelian cross, how we go forward from F1 generation to F2 generation, when these pink flowered plants, they are self-pollinated or crossed amongst themselves, either brother-sister cross or self-pollination, either of these. The F2 plants, they will have three varieties again, like dominant, homozygous recessive, and heterozygous. And again, these heterozygous ones, they will have pink color. Now, if you go back to that monohybrid cross and look at the monohybrid phenotype ratio, it was 3:1. In this case, what we get is 1:2:1, which was same like genotypic ratio. So phenotypic ratio matches with the genotypic ratio of the monohybrid cross, but the phenotypic ratio has changed from Mendelian one, right? Which was otherwise 3 dominant and 1 recessive in terms of expression. And this is intermediate expression of the 2 alleles, that is incomplete dominance. So I hope this example is clear. Yeah. And also the most important part is this statements at the last, that is change in the phenotypic to genotypic ratio. If it is not clear, I will explain it on the board, but if it is clear, then I will go forward. Are there any doubts in understanding this part? Anyone? Okay, so then I assume it is clear to you all. Okay, so the second example of incomplete and incomplete dominance is found in this Andalusian fowls, which is a variety of hen or chicken. Uh, in that case, like again, black being the one of the dominant and white being the other color or character, uh, and when these two are crossed, ideally you should get either of these. Yeah, but that does not happen. The F1 offspring, they have blue color. They are also called as ROAN, roan color. Yeah, instead of blue, somewhere you might like happen to see that ROAN color, or roan chickens they are also called as. And when these are crossed with F1 generation, like same brother sister cross from the individuals of F1 generation, they are crossed amongst themselves. What you get is one of these, that is original parent, one of again the other original parent, and two of these. So phenotypic ratio is 1 as to 2 as to 2, which is same as the genotypic ratio also. And in case of Mendelian inheritance, this would have been 3 as to 1, but in this case that phenotypic ratio has changed to 1 as to 2 as to 1. So these are the one. This is one more example in terms of incomplete dominance. Again, specific questions being asked in this incomplete dominance with respect to a particular character trait is given, and then you have been asked to show the phenotypic or genotypic ratio for that particular species. Remember this particular expression, like here you can see C capital B, C capital B, here it is C capital W, C capital W. You might find this different at different places. Yeah, you can follow one complete like nomenclature. You can put this as capital B and you can keep this as small b. Yeah, so that can that is possible, and you can see differently it is written at different places. But forget about the nomenclature that is being used on this particular picture, but you can refer to this as homozygous dominant, homozygous recessive, heterozygous, and what you get in F2 generation is again homozygous dominant, heterozygous with different incomplete dominance, and the homozygous recessive one. So that is the same, but just the phenotypic expression or phenotypic ratio has been changed apart from the Mendelian monohybrid cross. Then the third example is again in case of the Pisum sativum gene, where the gene B, which is one of the gene present in that Pisum sativum, controls the size of the starch grains. Now, size of the grain is controlled by this gene B, and when you have big and round seed, rather like very big round seeds, and the small wrinkled seed, this is like again homozygous recessive, homozygous dominant. When they are crossed, you get heterozygous individual in the F1 generation. When they are self present, self pollinated or self crossed, that will give again this big round and small wrinkle, which was again like original parents. And what you get is intermediate size and round. Yeah, now the size has a direct implication, that is the incomplete dominance of either of these, that is big or small, that is the intermediate size seed or whatever that Pisum sativum seeds that you get is observed as incomplete dominance. Remember, these are not the examples of incomplete dominance. Only these are the examples of incomplete dominance. Same in this case also, these ones they remain as it is. This is homozygous dominant, homozygous recessive. This remains as your incomplete dominance. Yeah, they are neither classified as obviously they will remain heterozygous because they have two different alleles. Yeah, so they will be heterozygous with incomplete dominance. I hope you are understanding this part as well. Yeah, otherwise we always say heterozygous dominant, because in heterozygous individual, it will be always dominant gene which expresses, or dominant allele which expresses itself. Recessive is suppressed. But in this case, we call it heterozygous incomplete dominance. So these were the three examples of incomplete dominance. And again, these three examples, they are being specifically asked for various question. Like for example, which is the type of non-Mendelian genetics is observed in the Pisum sativum with respect to the size of the starch grain. Then you have to draw this particular monohybrid cross showing that there is the incomplete dominance in the F2 generation, showing the phenotypic ratio 1:2:1 rather than 3:1, which was the Mendelian monohybrid cross. Any question here? Anyone? Okay. So then moving to the next non-Mendelian behavior, that is the codominance. Incomplete dominance was half expression of dominant, half expression of recessive. So that's what lead to incomplete dominance. That is usually because of the protein expression, right? Now in codominance, what happens is, again, due to different expression of these genes or protein expressions, ultimately both the genes or both the alleles, they will be expressing independently. How? So both the genes of the allelomorphic pair express themselves equally, right? Now, our idea of Mendelian genetics stays with only one of the gene or one of the allele out of a pair is expressing. That particular behavior is like following an exception of codominance, where both the genes or both the alleles, they will express themselves. So let's say if it is homozygous dominant, in that only one allele used to express, or in heterozygous individual, only one allele used to express. And if that is an example of codominance, in that case, both the alleles will express, and that too equally. So, and specifically in the F1 hybrid, and in F2 generation, then again the phenotypic ratio will match the genotypic ratio. Just the characteristics will be different than what we saw in the incomplete dominance. We'll see that particular part in the example. And the again F2 progeny will exhibit this phenotypic ratio of 1:2:1. The alleles of a pair which are able to express themselves independently when they are present together in a hybrid, they are called as codominant allele. So whatever alleles are present together and both of them are expressing independently, those alleles are called as codominant allele. For example, the codominance of coat color in the cattle. Now I remember I had mentioned it some time back that some cows are black, and let's say they may mate or like sexually reproduce with another cow which is white color, and the offspring that they produced, they are patchy or they are of different color and so on. So that particular phenomena is an example of codominance. So let's say in cattle, gene R stands for the red coat. Now red, I guess it's literally not red, it's little brownish color. So let's say gene R stands for the red coat color and W for white coat color. Now when the red cattle are crossed with the white cattle, that is both are like dominant for their own color codes, right? There will be red dominant, there will be white dominant. And when F1 hybrids will have roan color of the genotype, that is RW. And now this will be more clear in this part. You have this white, you have this red, and then what you have is this white and red combination, which is patchy, which is neither white, neither red, and it is not even like incomplete dominance, which would have shown you ideally half red and half white. But in this case, it is not half expression. It is rather a random expression in terms of patchy, where some part of the coat color will express complete red and some part of the coat color will express complete white. So that way the expression happens, and that is the example of codominance. Again, in this case, the F2 generation will have the ratio of 1:2:1, and this 2 refers to the complete dominance. Yeah, sorry, codominance, not complete dominance. So in earlier case, that 1:2, this ratio, this phenotypic ratio was 1:2:1, and this 2 was referring to the incomplete dominance. In case of codominance, this 2 refers to the codominance phenomenon. Just the based on which characters we are studying, these things will change. Second and most important example of codominance is again blood group. Now, in case of blood group, what we have is two different blood group system. Now, you might not have heard of this MN blood groups within human because it is not commonly used and it is not even of so much of clinical importance. That means in studies, it is not much used. Reason being, they are not having those many problems as such, even being those antigens for M and N protein present on the RBC surface. Otherwise, that also can be identified for a particular individual. So let's say we are 5-6 of us, and we want to identify our blood group based on MN blood group system rather than ABO. We want to identify, so that is also very much possible based on certain antibody studies using those MN antibodies. But that we'll see in the second part of this example. So let's say ABO blood group system in human beings, that is an example of codominance. How? We know the basics of blood group system, that is the plasma membrane of RBC has certain sugar polymers which project out from the surface of RBCs, and they are called as antigens. So these antigens are the ones which decide which blood group that particular individual will have. So the type of sugar polymer formed by the formed is controlled by gene I. That is, I stands for isoagglutinin, which is highlighted here at the bottom. So this I gene will control the type of sugar polymer or type of isoagglutinin that is formed and expressed. And this isoagglutinin can be present in 3 different alleles. That is 3 different protein forms. That is O, A and B. Now both the alleles, that is A and B, they are dominant, and O is are dominant to IO, that is IO is recessive, that is this O protein that is being expressed is recessive, and A and B, they are the dominant ones. But like when they are present together, they exhibit codominance phenomena. How? That is what is blood group AB. So for example, allele IO does not produce any surface antigen. Yeah, O means literally nothing, no antigen, but isoagglutinin will be there. So that is why there is a blood group associated with you, with it. Then allele IA, it will express the antigen A. Allele IB with isoagglutinin, it will express antigen B. And these things can also be written with letter L. So in again some of the reference book, you will see LO like this. Instead of I, they use L or LA and LB. But that letter is referring to this guy who found out the alleles of the blood group, that is Landsteiner. So for example, O blood group, which will not have any antigen. So that means both the alleles will be recessive and it will be OO, that is IO, 2 copies, right, for one particular character. In case of antigen or blood group A, it will have antigen A. So it can have completely homozygous dominant, right? Or it can have this codominance, A dominant, right? That is only one antigen is present and the other antigen is not present, but there is isoagglutinin, which is still considered as one of the blood group, that is O, that is absence of any antigen. So that particular individual is heterozygous, but it is showing the dominant phenotype. In case of B, again something similar, that is both are dominant, so that is homozygous dominant, or it can be heterozygous dominant, that is having one IB and other IO. It will still have antigen B, and that is in nature of dominant. Now, the example of codominance here is when both the antigens are present, that is A as well as B, and both are getting expressed, right? So that means those RBCs will have A antigen as well as B antigen, and that is what is example of codominance. Remember, these are not the example of codominance because there is only one antigen present. This IO is, there is no antigen. Yeah, so that way it is heterozygous because two different alleles are present and there is only one antigen present. So that way it is still only dominant. Yeah, on the contrary, A and B both will get expressed. That is an example of codominant. Now, same thing, if I have to show you just a little bit more in detail. So if you look at this diagram, yeah, your group A or blood group A will have RBCs with A antigen. So that is what you see in red color here. And it will have antibodies for anti-B. Yeah, A blood group will have antibodies for B and B blood group will have antigen B and antibodies for A. Yeah, that's the reverse for it, so that there will be no cross fixing, mixing between these two. So that is what is one of the immune reaction that we have in our bodies. If blood from A blood group is given to blood group from B, they have some cross reactivity because of the antibodies present in those bloods respectively. Yeah, so blood group A has A antigen, but antibodies will be of B, and blood group B has B antigen, but will have antibodies for A. AB blood group will have both the antigens, that is A as well as B, but antibodies will be none. On contrary, if the blood group O is there, it will have no antigen, but both the antibodies. So that way this chart will give you more clarity, which antigen and which antibodies and how is the expression pattern happening. So this can have IA, that is the allele in one of the individual, or otherwise it can also have IA and IO as the second allele. Yeah, still it will express the A antigen. In group B, what you can have is IB, that is both homozygous dominant allele, or it can also have IBIO, that is again a heterozygous individual expressing a dominant phenotype of B antigen. In AB, which is the example of codominance, both the antigens can be expressed simultaneously, that is A as well as B. And in O, which is the example of homozygous recessive, none of the antibodies, none of the antigens are being present on the surface. So that is the reason why you can actually give this blood. So you can see who can donate and who can receive the blood based on the cross reactivity. We haven't looked at the positive and negative, but you know, rhesus factor, if it is present, it can only be given to Rh positive rhesus factor, that is Rh positive. And so is the case with the negative. So you can have a look at this chart, you will get kind of an idea which blood can be given to whom and why it is, and then you can relate it to this particular phenomenon. Also, if like I spoke of this sugar polymers or isoagglutinin, for example. So this is something which is your isoagglutinin molecule, which is finally attached to some protein molecule. That is just to show you. So this is the surface of the RBC that you can see. On the surface of the RBC, you have isoagglutinin molecule, and on that isoagglutinin molecule you have this uh, like protein antigens. Now in this case it is shown as M and N, but it can also be of this A and B antigen. So that is where they are located. Now when we talk of this codominance within the Mn blood group, so like I said, one of the blood grouping system in human is ABO, which is most commonly used, and the another blood grouping system is again Mn blood group system, which is not commonly used because of the non like there is no clinical significance of that. Most of the individual, they do not have cross reactivity, which is rarest of the case, if at all there is a cross reactivity between M and N antigen. So what is it? So person with MM genotype, again both the alleles are homozygous, dominant for M, they will have M blood group. Both the alleles for uh, N antigen, that is homozygous dominant for N, will have N blood group, again it is dominant. But when it is both M antigen as well as N antigen present, that is both the alleles are present or both genotypes are that is heterozygous individual, different alleles, and they will have Mn blood group. So these are the three blood grouping system. I mean there are several others also, you can find it capital S, small s, then there is capital C, small c. So there are several such antigens present on RBCs, which are almost like 50 or so, I guess. And based on those antigens, you can have 50 different type of blood group, but we don't follow those many because they are clinically not significant. The clinically significant ones, which is and also found commonly, is your ABO blood group system, and that's why we follow it. And that is what you see here. This is the M part or M antigen, and this is the N antigen. And when both of these are present, this particular individual will have Mn blood group. If this individual has only N, it will have N as its blood group. So that way, and you can also see here capital S, small s. So, but again, we need not go into those details. It is nothing but one of the amino acid has methionine, then it is capital S blood group. If that same amino acid due to certain mutation has been changed to threonine, that is one of another amino acid, it will have small s. So this is the sign of like short form of denoting methionine as amino acid, and threonine is denoted by small s. So based on that, we can have like how we have Rh positive and Rh negative. If Rh factor is present, that is rhesus monkey factor, we call it Rh positive. Similarly, if methionine is present in the same chain, we call it Mn or whatever that blood group is along with S. And if it is threonine, we call it small s. So that is the only difference. So one of the treatment whenever blood transfusion is happened is done with this papain or chymotrypsin. Both of these can be used, or even either of these can be used, so that this Mn blood group system is taken care of. What papain will do is it will chop off this antigen which is on the surface of RBCs. So this antigen will not show any cross reactivity at all, right? On the contrary, your A, B or O antigen system will stay intact because this has specific reactivity towards these molecules due to certain amino acid compositions. This can be taken care of by this enzyme like structures. And every blood transfusion that happens in the blood bank or in the hospitals, they are treated with different enzymes so that they can take care of this Mn blood group system. Again, this is just to make sure that there is no cross reactivity with that particular individual in which the blood transfusion is happening. Okay, any question here with this blood group system? Okay, so I hope this part is clear also. In if at all the question comes, they like may not really come from Mn blood group system, but if at all it comes, you need to know that it is also a type of codominant expression of the alleles. Then one more example I have is codominance of sickle cell hemoglobin. Now we already know that sickle cell anemia is the disease in which the shape of RBC is changed to sickle shaped. Sickle shaped is nothing but a distorted shape, and that is because of the change in the hemoglobin protein. Now, if the and this particular disease is caused by this abnormal form of hemoglobin, which is denoted by HB and S, and the normal form of the same hemoglobin is denoted by HbA. Now, if the person has both normal alleles, obviously that person will have normal hemoglobin. If the person has both abnormal hemoglobin gene, that is sickle cell hemoglobin gene, then that person is going to have severe sickle cell anemia, and it may die of fatal or lethal anemia. Yeah, so that is the condition with this homozygous individual, which is having homozygous gene of the sickle cell hemoglobin. Now, when it is heterozygous individual, that is one normal and one sickle cell hemoglobin gene, this is again an example of codominance. Now, what will happen in this case when we say it is codominant? That means normal RBCs or normal hemoglobin will also be produced, but at the same time, there will be some RBCs which will probably be equally half in number, which will have this distorted hemoglobin, that is sickle cell hemoglobin structure, that is ultimately sickle cell RBCs. So that is what is an example of this sickle cell hemoglobin in terms of codominance. And these individuals, these heterozygous individuals, they have better survival rate because at least they have half of the RBCs which are normal and half of the RBCs they are affected. So in this example, we can see the codominance because both of the alleles they are getting expressed, and that is again one of the deviation from the Mendelian genetics. And you can find several other examples like this. And based on this, you can actually say if a particular individual has a particular disease or not. One more thing that you need to take care here is what exactly is codominant, what exactly is autosomal dominant, and what exactly is autosomal recessive disorder. So the moment we say autosomal dominant, that means when that particular gene is dominant and it is being expressed, then it will always be passed on to every generation. Even one copy is being present, then that will pass on the disease. That is autosomal dominant. Autosomal recessive will be when, even if only when both the copies of allele are present, then only that disease will happen. That is autosomal recessive. If it is one copy is affected and the other copy is not affected, or it is normal, in that case that person will be carrier, that person will not be affected in case of autosomal recessive. In case of codominant, again, even if one copy is affected, because both the genes are getting expressed, it is something like autosomal dominant again. And here, but only the difference is half of the phenotype is expressed, that is phenotype as in individually they will express phenotype, but only half of the RBCs, like here, they are getting affected and half they are normal. So that way, out of the total phenotype, it will be half which will have affected cells and half will have normal RBC cells. I hope this part you followed as well, and you can differentiate between what is autosomal dominant, autosomal recessive, and the codominant part. Again, if there are any questions, I can take it. Yeah. Oh, good. I forgot that I have this slide. Just to show you here that we have a normal hemoglobin structure, and of course this is more than that, but just where the part of the hemoglobin where it is changing, that part is shown. So this is the normal hemoglobin mRNA, and it has normally coding for glutamic acid. Now due to single mutation, if you see CG on both sides, CG, but just a point mutation, that is from T, when it changes to A, then obviously this is going to get converted into valine, because this code is coding for the amino acid valine. So one amino acid change can lead to your mutation in whole protein, which ultimately can lead to the sickle cell anemia. And that way, if you have different crosses, normal and S is the mutated version. So if it is this one is the carrier, which is half of the chromosome is affected, again because this is codominance. And again this other one is also carrier, where half of the genome is affected. They will show half of the RBCs affected, half normal, half RBCs affected, half normal in both the parent, that is father as well as mother. When they will produce the offspring, they can have normal son, they can have carrier, like what is this son, or depend on whatever the X and Y chromosomes are. But there will be one normal, two carriers, and one affected, right? Again, it can be male or female depending on X or Y chromosome are getting fused, and this is autosomal trait. This is not sex linked trait. Sickle cell anemia is not sex linked trait, so you may not like identify in this cross whether this is male or female. It can be male, it can be female, based on which genes are getting transferred to this particular individual. But from autosomal, obviously, let's say this is on chromosome number 4. One copy of chromosome 4 will come from here, other copy of chromosome 4 will come from here, and that will be irrespective of whether this is male or female. So it can have this possibility of the this possibility of the expression pattern or the phenotypic ratio. Yeah, so that is how the next generation can be identified, if at all they have certain diseases or disorder, based on whether it is autosomal dominant disease or autosomal recessive disease or codominant disease or even incomplete dominance disease. Either of these can be checked with this particular in this particular way. Okay, I guess I can stop here. Next class we will start with the multiple factors. Again, there are several other examples of this, where epistasis and so on. We will see what these are. Okay, so let me stop. If there are any questions, I can take it. If not, we will discuss about Pratham's question.
So
Yes.
I have one. So in art, like in reproduction, like the last chapter,
Huh?
reproductive health, there was this method, right, with which you could take one healthy sperm
Hmm.
and use it like to get pregnant.
Right.
That, like, if the male, let's say, is a carrier of sickle cell anemia, so can you take that sperm and check its DNA code and after that transfer it?
No, come again. The last part is, if you take that sperm and
So can you first check its DNA code and after that still transfer it? Will it still work?
yeah.
So you won't have to break the sperm open or something to check its DNA.
Oh, you are talking like that. No, that sperm cannot be used. Usually the other sperms are being used, and from the same source you take out one sperm and inseminate for the fertilization. You
No,
cannot use the same sperm.
but that other sperm might have the sickle cell one, right?
It is assumed there that the sperm production is happening from the typical spermatogonia cells. If mutation is present in one sperm, it will be present in all the sperm. A rare chance that if one sperm is mutated and others are normal, or the other way.
No, so
That's
like
a
only half the sperms will be mutated, right? If the person is a carrier.
why half.
So because they'll have one copy of the chromosome.
One copy of the yeah, that's correct. But then that one copy of the chromosome, if it is having mutation in one sperm, all the sperms will have the same, no?
No, so one copy of the chromosome is going and becoming one, and the other one is becoming the other. No, so
Okay,
only
you
half
are
of them.
okay. You
So
are
this is like
talking.
a way of preventing sickle cell anemia. I'm asking, like, can it be done? Like
Yeah,
through
yeah, it can be done, but then in that case, you actually separate. I'm not sure how it is done then. Literally, I mean, I got your question. Like, then you will have a pool of half sickle cell anemic sperms, and you will have half sperms which are normal. And then if you are choosing one sperm where you find like source of sickle cell anemia, but and next time, or let's say you assume it is normal sperm in the test that you found out, you use randomly some sperm, and that sperm, if it is getting utilized for the fertilization, and if that is sickle cell anemia, then the chance of having a child will have sickle cell anemia, right?
So, but like, why can't you use the same sperm? Like, do you have to break it open to check its DNA?
Yeah, otherwise how will you get the DNA? Another mechanism by which it can be done is you take the some of the cells from the testis itself, not the sperms. So if you check it in the earlier version, like when you do that, what we call when the cells are diploid itself, not the haploid ones. You take any diploid cells, so where both the chromosomal copies are present, and that you check for particular and there you can surely check if at all any of the chromosomal copy, whether from mother or father of that particular individual, has any defective sperms for like sickle cell anemia or any other disease for that matter.
Sir, but if you take a diploid one chromosome will surely be defected, and the other will be all right.
So in that case, usually doctors, they do not take a chance of using those sperms at all for artificial fertilization.
No, no, no. I wasn't talking about artificial one. I mean, if a couple wants to marry and if like the male is a carrier, so how do they prevent it?
They cannot prevent it. There is still a random chance that sperm will get fused to ova, and it can be a defective one or it can be the normal one. They
Okay.
cannot prevent it.
But they can, after fertilization, they can always check the fetus, and then they can terminate pregnancy if it is
Yes,
infected.
that can happen. So termination of pregnancy can happen in that case.
What if they are like really unlucky continuously?
Well, can't help. They have to undergo the process of what we call test tube baby then. Oh, okay. It's already 31. We will discuss Pratham that question in the next class, that is tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, let's stop here. Are there any questions as of now? Otherwise, Manskit, Girisha, Pranavi.
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So let's stop here, people. Thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow. Class 9 people, I will end this meeting. Start. Okay. Bye bye, people, and see you.